Today, I'm going to be adding this blue strobe to my house fire alarm system, but it's going to be a little more complicated than just adding a strobe, because it's also going to involve adding this relay module. Let's talk about it. This is the blue strobe that I want to install right here at the front of my house. Right there, under the mailbox. This is going to be installed for the purpose of building annunciation. I've done a whole video on why these blue strobes are seen in my province and what they're used for. But to put things simply, they are for the purpose of building annunciation and annunciator or panel annunciation. That meaning that when there's a blue strobe as part of the fire alarm system flashing on a building, it's representing either the building that is in alarm and or where that annunciator or panel to view the alarm and see the location of it can be found. So I have this blue strobe installed here on this garage building. That will represent if this building is in alarm. But we have nothing on the house building. So that's where I'm going to be installing this blue LED strobe on the front of the house, tied into the fire alarm system. Now, before we get started with doing that, let's talk about why this is a little bit more complex than some installs could be and why that relay is going to be involved. Basically, it comes down to my cheapness and laziness. This is my panel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are my 4 NAC circuits. NAC standing for Notification Appliance Circuit. This 320, NFS 320C, has 4 of them. All 4 of them are being used. One's my level 1 NAC circuit, one's my level 2 NAC circuit, 3 is the shed under the deck circuit, and 4 is the chime strobe circuit. Now, if I wanted to add anything else, I'd need a booster panel, and that's expensive. So how are we going to power this blue strobe? Well, I could add it onto an existing NAC circuit, but this box is already a pain to get to. And it's a blue strobe for building annunciation, not for alerting occupancies. It doesn't need to be a supervised device from my understanding and what I've seen. So it could just be ran off a power supply and a relay. We could run a new wire from here to the front of the building and tie it onto one of the panel's relays or a relay here. But then I actually have to run a new circuit all the way over there, and that's a lot of work. I don't feel like doing that. But we already have power right by the front of the building. This annunciator has 24 volts already at it, right by the front. The thing is if this is just connected to 24 volts, it will just be flashing constantly, and we don't want that. We only want it flashing when the system's in alarm. So we need a way to control it. That's why we have this notifier FRM-1A, which is a relay module and will allow us to control when this comes on with the relay. However, this needs to tie into an SLC so it can be communicating to the panel and controlled. And for that, we also, right by this front door and annunciator, have the SLC to this front door pull station. So if we get 24 volts power from there and SLC communication from there into the box of this, then the output, the controlled side of the relay, will control our blue strobe. So I'm gonna first start by mounting our box that our module is gonna go on. So that's going to be installed right around here. That nail is in my way, so I'm going to get rid of that first. I'm going to break these guys out here because I want to mount it where these guys are. We're going to put this 4040 in the top here. And now I need power and SLC, so I'm going to open up our annunciator and remove this from the wall here. And that's where we're going to get our 24 volts power. Take it into that box from here, and we'll take SLC from our pull station here. So I'm going to unplug these to make this easier. That will put the system into a trouble, and I'm going to put this guy aside. So I'm going to need to remove one of those bottom knockouts of that box that I've got there. For my wire today, I'm going to be using this 4 conductor because it's pretty much useless for anything other than a 2 conductor. It's insulated ground, so they count it. So once you use your ground, you're left with 3 conductors. So it's basically only good for 2 wire stuff, which is why I'm using it up on this. So I'm going to take this little section here, and I just thought about this. That's not going to work because this isn't our last device, so we actually need a 5 wire. It'll work for this. Alright, and I'm going to strip this guy here. Round fire alarm cable is a pain in the ass. And here I've got some 5 wire for our SLC. Alrighty, so I'm gonna bring my my stuff in through up here. So this is that's our annunciator, or power from our annunciator, and this can certainly be cut down a ways. That is our SLC from our pull station. And I am going to put a staple right above the box to hold those in place. Now, to keep things straightforward, I'm going to bring our output, which will be our blue strobe, out the bottom instead, so you can easily make working on it easier. Now let's just input and output, and I'll put another 4040 in right there. This is going to be to our strobe. I apologize for the bad camera angle. It's in a dark closet and I'm standing outside the closet trying not to get in the way of the camera, and the thing's way up here, so it's not going to be the best. That's just how the cookie crumbles. So I'm going to basically just wire everything up here and then close this off so this is done with. So first, you're going to watch me painfully strip these round wires and struggle with it. Alright, so firstly, I'm going to deal with all of our grounds and bond everything here. Strip back a little section of that guy. Wrap them around our bonding screw. Get our ground off of these other guys. Actually, not this one, because this one's coming from the annunciator and that's already bonded, so we only need one from the outside world to come in here, which will be the one from our pull station. Since that, we've already got a splice of grounds in there, so all we gotta do is undo a moret and we're ready to add more onto there. But the annunciator doesn't need a ground, it's already grounded. And we just got to get a ground to here from the existing part of the system that is grounded, and we can just choose one thing for that. So we'll do these guys up together here, tuck them back there. Once again, blue, we're not going to use that, so we'll coil it up and save it for a rainy day. This red and black, that's going to be our output. This is our input power from our annunciator. So again, blue, we're not going to use that. I'll coil it up. I could cut it off like the ground, but you never know. And then these guys coming from our SLC, we're going to be using every single one of these. Alright, let's kick things off by wiring up this module. So the first thing we're going to do is our SLC. So we know that's these wires, so we're just going to not even worry about these for now. We got our SLC, which keep in mind is not connected to the outside world, but it will be. We want to get this done, so once it's ready to be connected, it's all ready to go. So brown and red are used as positive, and blue and black are used as negative. P1 here, that's negative, so we'll put our blue and black onto there, and red and brown are positive, so we'll put those onto T2. And there, boom, we're done with SLC. We don't have to deal with that anymore, so that makes things a lot simpler. Gotta look at things one thing at a time. Otherwise, things will look crazy. So then, we gotta deal with our power sources. So this is just a relay, it's just a switch. And we don't need to switch both of them. I mean, we actually could, since there's dual contacts on here, but we don't need to. We can save those for another thing. So we'll take our negatives, which are the blacks, and we're going to splice those right together so the power can go right through. And the relay is only going to be switching our positive. So we'll stick another moret onto there. And we'll strip our positives, which is what we're going to be switching. We need to use common. That's the first thing to look for, is get the common done with, since we know we're going to need a common no matter what we're hooking up. So hook up the common on relay 1, and then we don't want to use the relay 2 as our other side, since that's a different relay. We want this to be normally open, meaning the switch is open, not power going through, so this wouldn't be going off when the system's in normal condition. So NO, normally open, that goes down there. And there you have it. So now, this is ready to be mounted up. If I'm talking weird, it's because I got an 832 in my mouth. But we can make this where it's going to tuck. Don't want to crush anything. Usually these boxes would come with the screws inside of them. At least these metal ones do. But this box was used. It came from somewhere else. And somebody stole my screws. And we'll worry about the address and the cover plate after. We just need to get this electrically done before we do electronicals and details like the cover. So we're going to chuck another staple in here, since all this stuff's supposed to be stapled within 300 millimeters of the box. That's 30 centimeters, or for the American people, about 12 inches. Okay, so I've ran that over there, and it's going to pop out up there where that pipe comes through, because that's where we got to do some work on the outside. Now I'm going to drill a hole for this box for our cable to come through, as well as mounting the box. Alright, I've climbed up there and pushed that through the hole I made. You can see if I turn that off, you can kind of see some light. So now on the outside, I can pull it all through until it stops. There we go. And by the way, of course, I'm gonna cut like a 2-inch hole in the stucco instead of like a 3/8 hole so that I can fit a connector on there. We're definitely going to do that for the purposes of meeting the requirements for my system that's not required to be here. Now that I'm looking at this, I realize that I made a loop to ground the box, but this actually has a pigtail on it. So we'll use this instead. There's our 2 mounting screws. And I'll strip these while I'm at it here. Turn it around. And here's like negative. And positive. And now I can mount the device. All right, that's solid. So now our blue lens can go on. All right, and now we are back to the inside stuff. So I think first we'll connect our power here, and we don't need this ground conductor. However, we do, of course, need to run power to this guy. So this is going to be our 24 volts power. That's powering this device. Made that guy a little long. So this is going to come from our annunciator power, which our annunciator power is, I believe, that red and black there. Yes, it is. That's 24 volt in. So we're going to just double up on those terminals because I don't see a 24 volt out to go to another one, but these terminals will happily seat 2 wires in them. That's not a problem. And hopefully, if we did things right, that light isn't currently flashing, because if it is, that means we hooked up the relay wrong. No flashing, so we are all good. So that has the annunciator part done. So we can now put this back together and plug in our power. And then we'll plug in our communication, transmit and receive. So we're running this terminal mode on this instead of ACS. And I need to unlock this. That's gone. Well, actually no, it hasn't gone back to normal yet. Still saying supervisory. LCD 80 supervisory, but it will soon figure out that it's back. There we go. Alright, so that's good. And now time for our SLC portion of it. So we need to tie our ground together with the rest of our grounds over here. And now we need to mess with our SLC. And here we're going to have some colors and splicing going on. Somehow we've ended up with a ground fault. So we're going to look beyond that for now. So something of what we just did probably caused the ground fault because we just tied our grounds on and now we're getting problems, but that can wait. So here, one of these is going to be SLC in and one of them is going to be out. So which is which, I don't know, but this is one cable and that's our other cable. So which one's coming in, which one's going out, doesn't matter. But we're going to first deal with our negatives. So we'll have this negative coming in and then we'll have our negative to our new relay module. And then we're also going to have our positive coming in and our positive to our relay module. And then our brown is our positive coming back from our relay module, which will tie into our positive continuing onto the system. Okay, and now the negative coming back from the new module to continue on through the rest of the system. Now we're initializing, so that will create initializing trouble. So I'm going to tuck these back in there. This is all good to be put back away. We are still left with a ground fault, but I'm guessing it is probably in that strobe we put up. I've pulled this back down and the ground fault's still there, so I'm going to take the ground off of this and see if it goes away, because I've seen these things before throw internal ground faults. And that is indeed what it was. It was an internal ground fault, so I'm going to switch this out for a different one. Okay, I'm going to put up this one, another LED one. They flash a lot longer than the xenon ones, so they show up better on camera, lower current draw, so I'm going to use this LED one. And hopefully it doesn't have an internal ground fault. Apparently this one also has a freaking ground fault in it. I'm going to run out of strobes here to use. Yeah, I've got a third one now. This one was in even worse shape. It's got all pieces missing I had to put together from the other ones, but we'll see if it's got a ground fault in it too or not. Third one also caused a ground fault. Okay, for now it's getting this one just without the ground attached, and the ground fault's gone when the ground's not attached, so this one's going to stay here for now, and maybe we'll revisit this problem at another time. Okay, now to program this, first we need to put this into the system, but we can't put it in until we give it an address, so we have to look at what's the next available address to use. If we look at the zoning and device list, this page, our last one is 5, but if we go over here, our last one on this page is 7. So we have to put this at address 8. So the 10s will stay at 0, and this guy needs to go to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more. 8. Alright, now we're going to program this into the system, so we'll get into programming mode. We'll do level 2 password to add device. That'll cause a trouble, we'll acknowledge that. We'll go to basic program, and we're going to hit auto program to auto find this point. That's the only way to do it on these notifier on X series panels. I don't feel like logging into and setting up and connecting to this with verifier tools, and you don't need to just add a device. So we're just going to go into auto program. It'll find that device, hopefully, assuming we did everything right, and then we can go from there and do the specific programming with this device, like naming and zoning, which for this we don't need to do any specific zoning because we want this to happen on all alarms, not specific zones or devices. Okay, so there you can see relay. We have our different options here: bell circuit, strobe circuit, horn circuit. Let's see our different options. I think I would set to let's set to strobe circuit. We're going to name it. Blue outside strobe. We'll leave it at 00 to go on all zones. We'll change how it operates, I believe, is silenceable or not. We'll have to mess around with that. Now it'll reinitialize. We don't like to hear that. So it's showing open. It's acting like it's a control module, but it's a relay module, as we know. So I guess we put in the wrong type code. So we'll change to relay. I should have known better. I've done this before. It's like been a few different times. Type for me, damn it. It's been a few different times I've done that, where I've put them in as a certain type of control module when it's a relay module. You'd think it would know the difference and wouldn't let you, but it will let you. Oh, it's not going to let me because we're not initialized yet, so I'm going to have to wait. There we go. Point modify. It's a module. So module 008. Strobe circuit, you don't like that, so we'll change you to just a plain old relay. Hey, you happy now? And I think, like, set to relay, it should just go off an alarm and then stay on until the system's reset, unless it was set to silenceable or something. I didn't even go that far into the programming though, or look how we do that though, so for now we're not going to worry about it. All right, let's test this thing out. We can see that is polling, so let's give it a test here. Let's pull the alarm. Actually, I don't want it shutting our fire door and turning off our HVAC, so I'm going to do a relay disable. And hopefully it didn't disable that relay. I don't think it should have. I think I had to zone them specifically to be disabled with that button. Yes, that's right. This is still polling, which for now I'm not going to program that, as I want that to still go off an alarm, and the relays only to do the annoying things like shutting down furnace and the door. So let's give this a pull. So I silenced that. Let's see if this is flashing. It's not flashing. And our relay hasn't tripped. I just looked at another relay for comparison. You can see this one has zone 98 set up first as the priority, so that's the disable, and then zone 00, which should trip on everything. The only difference I see is this one has the 3 stars, so I'm wondering if maybe that didn't get changed from when it was set wrong as a control module. Maybe somebody with a little more experience with this stuff could tell me. Oh, wrong button, that's why it's not working. So all these options, I believe, are just different silenceable and different options. I would like to know what they all do. Alright, let's see if this should work now. Alright, let's try it again. There we go. Of course, it doesn't look like much because it's so bright outside. But it's working. And I think that should stay on until it's reset. We'll take a look. We can see it's solid green when it's active. There we go, that's back to normal. And there you have it, no more strobing. Alright, there you go. I've now put the cover on and labeled it Blue Strobe Relay. That, I think, pretty good labels what it is. It is indeed the Blue Strobe Relay. So, this can now be closed up to never be seen again. And I've added it to the list, well, until I print a new one. And I'm going to put this back to normal. There we go. Well, alrighty there, guys. That's going to be about it for this install. We will have to take a look at this strobe later on, another time at night, and see how well it flashes. But for now, that's going to be it for this one. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you do have any comments or questions or video recommendations, feel free to leave those down in the comment section down below. And if you do enjoy the channel, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you are interested, I do have an Instagram account at Pickle700 for bonus content and stuff posted earlier than you'd see it on the YouTube channel, that sort of thing. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching.